But I'm so happy that we're able to today broadcast live, and you can actually review things later because I might be going a little too fast, or you might not have all the items that I have on this table to make your own maybe designs when you're going to look for those fall leaves. Again, it's one of my favorite seasons of the year, basically because of the colors that you see all around us. And I'm originally from California, so when people ask me, are you gonna go leaf peeping? That was a new concept for me. And basically the New Englanders with their leaf peeping maps and everything. And I sort of got into that because I did live in Cambridge for a while. And then here in upstate New York and Central Park. So basically, I mean, Central Park has this wonderful map that I printed out, and it tells you the sections of, of the park and what leaves you might find. So I think it's quite fun to do something like that. Maybe not you have this paper in your hand, but just review it and just know, okay, those are the trees that you find in Central Park. And also online, you're just going to find so many different printouts like that you could print out and then sort of discover what kind of leaves you'll be picking up, even though I even forgot what I picked up yesterday, but you sort of get used to, I guess, in a sense of finding leaves. Here's one that's leaf hunt. So, and fall scavenger hunt. So these are fun things, maybe if you have your kids and it's a nicer day than today, just to go out and explore what's out there and be able to have fun with leaves. The whole idea of repurposing flowers for Bloom Again had brought me to the idea of maybe utilizing jars and things that you might have at home rather than having to buy a vase. So I'm gonna start off with repurposing jars, vessels that you might have that you can make into a vase. Okay, so let's start off with a jar. I think those who might have a jar at home now, because it was part of the active, if you want to join me and do something with these jars. As we know, for weddings, mason jars became very popular for that country look. So hey, these are actually from they're jam jars. So I collected these. This is one that had pickles or mustard in it. So basically, I want to show you what you could do, a very simple idea of utilizing these jars that you might find at home instead of putting it in the trash. Maybe you want to start collecting them. I have here a piece of, let's see, wire. And I think I told you to bring string. So I do have string. And I found this in IKEA. IKEA has great stuff, not so expensive. And this is sort of a twine that's like double twine. It has red and beige twine. You could even use kitchen twine, when you tie your chicken up. So those are things, or for gardeners, you have your gardening string, all right? So I'm using, okay, I'll just use this string that I have here. And basically, you're going to start just getting your leaves. And here I've collected quite a few. This is a sycamore, but don't quote, no, you could quote me on this one. I know that's a sycamore. And then this is oak. Okay, so basically I have a whole bag of leaves that I've collected. And I know it was a little wet the last few days, but that's fine. We're going to have plenty of days to collect leaves. So basically I'm going to get my jar and then I'm just going to start, and I like keeping the stem. I don't want to remove them for this design. I just sort of want to keep that natural. And I just start putting that leaf on the jar and just tying it like that. So I'm just going to start by putting different textures. I sort of don't want to put two green ones together. I like having the contrast between a brown leaf that's already pretty much gone through its life cycle and one that's still sort of changing. I love picking up leaves that have the green chlorophyll that's still in there and then the yellow that's starting to appear. So you might just overlap those and you just still tie it like that. All right, and basically you're covering the jar and making it into your own vessel. You could even just make it one-sided like that. I'll just put one more because the leaves are actually quite big and it's doing its job by sort of covering. This is a beautiful oak leaf. And I'm just gonna tie it like that. So I hope some of you were able to pick up leaves. If not, I think most of you maybe are living in the city. So I don't know which park you might have. Maybe you're in Brooklyn, maybe you're in Queens or another state. But basically the time to pick leaves now would be great, even if you want to preserve them. There's a way of preserving your leaves by putting it between wax paper, and then you could actually use an iron, maybe an old iron, one that you're not going to use regularly on your clothes. And basically you iron, and you could put a little sheet of paper in between on top of the wax and iron that, and then you have these sheets of leaves that you could use anytime you want in the year, and it should preserve. You just take off the wax and you have these leaves that are ironed, and then they won't lose its color. So I just tied some leaves on that jar, okay, and I'm just going to utilize that as my vase. And sometimes you want to decorate your table. You might, find something like this in the yard if you're able to get a saw and make something like that. If not, it's fine. You're just going to be able to decorate your space by putting pumpkins or something like that to go with that fall theme. Alrighty, and we'll just put some water in here, and this one is just going to be a very simple hand-tied bouquet. I'm going to stick in here. So I have sunflowers. I know many of you have mentioned flowers that are not in season, like dahlia. Well, dahlias are still here, but basically the flowers that we're seeing now are the sunflowers and mums, a lot of mums. This is alstroemeria. People love alstroemeria because it lasts a long time. And basically people want to have flowers that have some longevity to it. We have some mums here. So what I'm trying to do now is just putting the flowers on top of each other like that and just holding it like this. And I'm going to make a very simple bouquet. I have here a mum. And you want to strip all the leaves from your stem because you don't want any stem leaves to be in your jar, because you would have a decay, starting to decay and make the water very dirty, and then that causes bacteria in your just your flower arrangement.
Lisa, we have a question here from, well, in the chat, some people are saying they're planning to do this later, so they are getting some inspiration from what you're doing so far. Someone asked, how do you make sure that you're not like bringing in bugs with the flowers that you bring in?
Oh, you mean with the leaves?
Yeah.
You have to look very carefully. No, I literally did not, surprisingly, in my bags of leaves, I have not found a bug yet. So for me so far, I haven't had any problem. But maybe just to rinse them off, you do want to make sure that when you pick up your leaves, just make sure to rinse them off first and dry them off with a towel. And that would be sort of a better prevention for tracking in stuff.
Cool.
And maybe not go near a dog park. Because sometimes you never know, where those dogs are. But I haven't had too many problems with that.
Okay. And then we just got one other question, which the scavenger hunt worksheets that you had up before.
Yes.
Can you say again where you got those from, or how to Google for them?
I could actually maybe send one of you, Laura or Kristen, a link to it.
Yeah.
because you notice there's going to be a lot of these items, because I think people are looking for activities that are outside now, especially when people are stuck in their apartments, in their homes, and to do something when it's a nice day. So it's amazing on Etsy and just all these printable charts and scavenger hunt, and also like little things that you could cut off and laminate to play memory, or also to have some sort of game out there for scavenging, and you could check off, I found that. And there's one actually for smaller kids that says, look for a red leaf or green leaf, and not specifically the name of the leaf. So it's just so many things out there. It's so much fun.
All right, that's awesome. So we'll get those worksheets from you, and so everyone here today will get it in a follow-up email.
Perfect. Thanks for the questions. I really think it's great that everyone is, whenever you have a question, I'll try to answer them. If not, Caroline or AJ or you.
Yes,
so this is just the first one I made. So from a jar, a mason jar, to one that really screams fall. Okay, and basically I did not use that many flowers. I have actually here safari and the one sunflower, and then here are the leaves. You see the stems here are just here on the table. I like showing that. I don't need to cut off the stem, because I just sort of like the natural part of showing that on the table. And then can you imagine you have 5 of these, and then also maybe like a few votives, just you light them up and have a cozy, dinner or lunch.
Lisa, we have another.
Because you don't need candles during the day. Anyway,
Lisa, we have a question
yes.
for you. Someone's asking if those were grasses that you put into the bouquet there too.
I'll show you. So this is grevillea. So actually everything I'm putting in the vase is store-bought. I did not get anything from like a garden grass, but this is just bought grevillea, and also safari is the other flower I used. So the only thing that I scavenged for in this piece were the leaves. Great, good question. So I'm just gonna put that aside right here, maybe. And another thing you could do with the jar, basically, the whole idea of utilizing flowers in a jar is that there's a big space here, and you need it's not that big, but you need to have flowers here that are stabilized, because if you just put the one, if I just put the one flower, say for example, that's not gonna hold the flower. So another way that I want to show you to stabilize your flower is to find some sticks. So this is something else that you could look for in the park, is to get some sticks, and basically here's some sticks. Okay, so basically you want to cut the stick, and it doesn't have to be all even, but just put it in the jar and just keep cutting it down. So you see all these sticks just in here, and I just keep cutting it down. And I pre-made this so that you won't get too bored of me cutting sticks. And basically just putting it in there like pencils, right? Like you're gonna have like some pencils in here, but just get some sticks, and basically I'm just putting a natural element in here, and then I'm gonna fill it with water. And you have here different heights. Again, I didn't really cut it all down. And this is gonna hold my flowers. And basically, I'm noticing maybe it's even too tight for one flower here. I'll put some water.
People are loving the sticks. Got some love. There's some love in the chat for your sticks. They really like the sticks.
I love collecting things, and whatever you could collect that you could use, it's perfect. So I'm gonna start off with maybe other little flowers. So I have here some mums. So I just want to show you, basically, you're sticking it in between the sticks. So even now, when I shake this, See, it's not moving too much, right? So in between something natural, your sticks, and using those sticks as your quote unquote frog. And I mean, I think this is going to overpower it. I don't want to put this one in here. I'm going to stick with smaller flowers, just going in between. And I don't want to make it too tall, like this would look awkward. So that's the whole thing for floral designing, making sure that the height of your flowers is not going to overwhelm your vase. So this one will be fine, but I would not do something like this, like too tall. Okay, so basically you want to make sure, so I'm going into some design ideas just to make sure that you're not utilizing flowers in wrong proportions. So I'm just going to use maybe this one on this side right here. You want to make sure it's not all going to be in one height because that makes it a little boring. So I'm bringing this flower down a little. And this is, to be honest, getting a little boring because it's too yellow. So I'm going to put in some thistle. This is sort of a purple, and it's giving another texture. When you're designing, you want to make sure that it's not all face flowers, meaning like big heads. Give it a little texture like a thistle. I'm sticking that right in here. In fact, I'm going to remove a stick because it's getting a little tight in there. So I'm just going to stick that in there. Okay. And again, less is more, trying to be creative, trying to use something natural that will also be part of the design, which are the sticks. And then here, utilizing flowers sparingly in a sense. So you can make a whole ton of these and not need a ton of flowers.
Lisa, I have a question for you. What is your technique for cutting the bottoms of the flowers? I see you using two different tools there, and I've heard something about like cutting at an angle.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good question. When you're cutting your flowers, I just want to show you the three, for me. The floral knife is something a lot of people shouldn't be using just because it's very sharp. And if you're not really used to it, but in the floral world, that's the main tool that we use so that we're pretty quick and we're cutting flowers at an angle. Basically, you want the flower to have as much water as possible going up the stem so that it's making this flower not dry out. So you want the water to go up. And if you cut it straight, the surface, this round surface, is less than at an angle, right? So you're gonna have water going up the stem faster if it's at an angle. Cool. So the main tool that I like using actually for designing is also these clippers. They're very lightweight, Joyce Chan Kitchen clippers. And I find these ARS clippers the best. They don't pinch, you know, sometimes when you're doing gardening, they pinch you a little, but this does not pinch at all. And there's a safety lock, which I love. I think it's great. So these are the three tools that I use. And again, sometimes with delicate, delicate stems like tulips, I tend to use sort of scissors because this could be sort of damaging for the stem. But I wanted, thanks for the questions. Whatever questions you guys have. I also have dried elements like wheat that I like just maybe adding maybe in here to give it more that fall look. And then I'm just gonna place it in here. So that's another design utilizing the mason jar, the sticks to stabilize the flowers, and it is enhancing the design. So I want to show you that you could also just tie, well, I'll do that maybe with the next design. So anyway, so that's one idea. Okay.
Lisa, we have a question for you. So you showed us how to cut the stems. So you showed us how to cut the stems so that they'll drink more water, right? But do you have any other tips to making flowers last longer?
Okay. So that's a good question, because a lot of people, when they're purchasing flowers, it's expensive, right? You want to make sure they're lasting as long as possible. And in the meantime, when you look for flowers in bodegas or anything, just make sure that take out the whole bunch and smell the water. Sometimes it smells, right? You think, oh, well, they haven't changed the water in the store for a long time. So that means these flowers have been sitting in this water for maybe more than a few days, because it takes a while for this water to smell. So that's one reason when you're looking for flowers, making sure that water is clean. And also when you bring flowers home, you should make your arrangement, and maybe every other day, dump the water, put in new water. And if you want to go really far, to recut the stems. So that will make your flowers last longer.
People are asking about additives too to the water. We have someone that has heard you can add bleach, and someone else has heard you can add glycerin to help preserve the flowers.
Yeah, I think flowers, I've heard about bleach, and where I worked, we never used anything like that. And I heard about the copper penny, but basically I think those are things that you really, it's sort of not necessary. I really feel as though you just have to change the water regularly. That would really keep the flowers fresh without having, there are like those packets of flower food that you could get. So that's something you could buy. That will give it nutrients, and that's helpful for your flowers.
And then we have
continue with this design. Is that okay? So here's another recycled element. It's a tin can, and it was actually for coffee. So besides the glass, you could utilize this, and I like the shape of this. But basically, getting paper, and I already measured this, and taping it on to this tin can will just give it a completely different look. And I used double-sided tape here, so you could just like put it on the paper, and then do it. And then I've created, I just transformed a tin can that held coffee into another vessel. I like sometimes just looking in craft stores. This is burlap, and then there's actually birch on it, so it's really handy. Instead, it's like a ribbon. So in that sense, I could add this here to highlight the fall. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, and then that, and then I'm going to add some leaves on that. So what I'm going to do is I have here wire. Wow, time is flying. Okay, I have wire here. Okay, and I'm just gonna cut a piece of wire, decorative wire, and I'm just gonna get a leaf and just tie that on like that, and then give it a good twist. Okay, there. And just to give you the idea of what I could do with, again, a leaf. And I've just transformed by tying that leaf onto this tin can, and within seconds you have a vase that you didn't have to buy, and you could reuse again and again. So that's just an example of a tin can style. And I won't be putting flowers in this one because I have other projects going on here. So, but just to show you two glass versions, one tin can. Okay, and then we all know, we've been using these a lot, unfortunately, and I feel bad throwing away, for the wipes, disinfecting, sanitizing wipes. So I took away the label. And again, you could utilize this as well. And again, it's a larger vase and plastic, so we're reutilizing that. And this is a different paper. It's sort of a thinner paper, just whatever paper you find on sale or, craft stores. And again, I'm just showing you what we could do by hiding the vessel. All right, so I won't, and then just utilizing different textures. Maybe you want to overlap it with another type of paper. And again, the technique of tying your dried leaves onto this will transform the vessel into something functional. Okay, so I will go into a little away from the recycled elements, but I do want to show you just, I don't know if you guys know what the masking tape. Have you ever seen these decorative masking tapes? They're just so much fun. So they're actually tape. It's tape that when you use, you could tear off right away, even from a wall, and it won't take off the paint. You know, so it's called masking tape. It's from Japan. They developed it, MT. So you could have different widths. This one I found has leaves on it and pears, and this one just has like a regular design. This is another way of utilizing, just so that you know, it's not the leaf orientation, but I want to show you that, where I got a jar and I just taped MT and the masking tape on it. And then I've created another type of jar that I could put flowers in. So not particularly fallish, but the same concept. Okay. Are there any questions now? I sort of could.
Yes, we have a couple. Okay, so one person is asking if you could repeat the brands of the scissors and the knife that you used.
Okay, so this is ARS clippers. They come in different colors. I always get pink because people, you know, like when I work, the guys don't want to steal my pink clippers, but. And then I have this is the Joyce Chen kitchen shears. So she's actually the chef in the kitchen. So I guess she used to cut herbs with it, or you know, with string. And I just find them to be perfectly like the size, and then just very light, similar to a Japanese style, right? Japanese shears that you have, see. And then I have my handy Swiss knife, which I don't recommend. Again, it's very sharp. So we don't even use these in Bloom Again. So basically we use ARS clippers when we do our floral arrangements in Bloom Again.
And we also have a question about where they can find the decorative masking tape.
Oh, sure. Michael's. Sometimes they have great sales. Online, there's a great online, maybe I could give that link for that. It's called washi tape.
Washi tape, right? Yeah.
And then Michael's, I think, just has the great selection, and it's not too expensive, because sometimes it could get a little expensive.
Yeah. If you wanted another quick second to breathe there, I can show I started to make.
Oh yeah.
My leaves are a little, I got them, I think, too many days ago, so they kind of like crinkled up and are very crackly right now, but it's fun to make it.
Yeah, no, that's great, because that's the different stages, where these I just got yesterday and they're quite, you know, soft, but the other ones were, you know, within a few days they start drying out, which is still fun. I can still use them, and that's a good segue, because I will show you something after I get untangled here, what to use with your dry leaves.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, yeah, with dry leaves. So here's wire. Just like you could just find any wire, you know, from Home Depot, or this happens to be that, and you just start stringing your leaves. So again, you just start poking right through them, and I like to like use different sort of different leaves, different shapes, and then maybe in different gradations of maybe an orange one, you know, just so that you're just having fun stringing. You're stringing them actually on this wire. Okay, and we're gonna make so that I won't bore you completely. I strung one. So these are leaves that you just keep on stringing. And you can make it into a long table design. So for example, like I could just continue on and on. with stringing these, and then you could put on the table, and then you could have those jars that we just made in between with votives, and that would be a fun design. Or you could, you know, hang it as a garland, right? And I'm going to use, you know, I'm going to tie this little one just to show you that you could even make it as a, to decorate your door, right? And they're all dry, so it's fine. So what I'd like to do is just let you know there's just so many things you could just think what you could use it for. So here's one, and then I found pine cones. These pine cones in the park, and I have here pipe cleaners. Yes, we still have pipe cleaners. And I'm just gonna tie that together like that. All right, so I made one already that has 3 on them. There's 3, right? And I'm just gonna, I could connect that here. And you guys will make a nicer, rounder one. I just didn't want to show you a gigantic one yet, but I wanted to show you that you could, this is the idea of making your own garland and tying the pine cones maybe to the side. It doesn't have to be in the middle. Okay, like that. And then getting ribbon. So I got 2 types of ribbon, one golden and sort of one brownish, satiny. And you could be country-like, you know, you could get like the pretty red and white country looking, but I found these 2 that I like, the shimmer. And I would just use that here to hang, and you can make a bow, you can make a big bow right here, and then have that, sorry, that's moving, as your like door decoration. All right, so that's just another idea of utilizing your dried leaves differently and hanging it on your door or anywhere you or near a window, and just to remind us it's fall. Anyway, okay, so that's one idea.
You know what I like about that one, Lisa, is that I feel like I couldn't mess it up. Even if I'm not very artistic, I feel like there's no way to do that one wrong.
Oh yeah, like I was closing my eyes when I was, you know, like putting, like I was watching a TV show. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, definitely. And I think this is the thing, you could perfect it and say, oh, I want to have gradation. I want to have all my greens together, and then oranges, yellows, and then browns. And that would be a beautiful ombre. And then people see, oh, you took time to make that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, it's, you could think out of the box. You don't have to really follow a rule per se, but I think it's good to just have that different shapes and different types of leaves on that. I want to show you another thing that you could do. This is like wire, and I've created a ball, and basically you could fill this ball with pine cones or anything that you're finding in your garden, pine cones, acorns. All right, so I'm just filling this, and then I'm just sort of gonna enclose it in that. So you've created a ball of wire, and you have these pine cones and acorns in here, and I'm gonna put it in this vase like that, so it's on display. Okay, and then you could use a plastic tube or that you sometimes find from a market when you have dendrobium orchids, or now in the lab you could find online. I collect glass tubes because I need to find out how I'm going to utilize my flowers with the water source. So I'm just going to stick this glass tube in here. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little water in there. And again, it's just having this one bloom in here. Okay, and then I'm going to add some leaves. Just add a few leaves. So it's just showing you that, yeah, you could collect leaves, you could collect pine cones and acorns and think out of the box and what can I do to make a vase. So I've created This is sort of a modern looking one now with the square vase and then the silver wiring.
Did you just mold the wire around like a ball or something to get it round?
So you just you unspool it and unspool it and unspool it, and you just sort of scrunch it until it becomes a ball.
Oh, okay. So you don't use like a mold or anything. You just, you unspool it off the wire, the little thing it comes on, and then you squish it.
Here's the wire.
Okay.
For example, and then you just unspool it and you just keep going, like you scrunch it until you get like a sphere. And then you're just going to constantly make it into a sphere. It takes a little while, but you're going to have fun. Okay, so yeah, you're just scrunching it up. And then you eventually get a sphere, which, you know, will have, which is not hollow. It's just going to be, and then you sort of put the indentation in. So
you like pull it apart a little bit so that you can make the space in there.
Hole, and then that's when you start putting your items in there. So I made, wow, how much more time do I have?
We have about 10 minutes, and we do have a couple of questions about, someone wants to see your pine cone wreath again.
Okay.
And then we have some questions about preserving. So let's do the pine cone wreath first.
I have two more just to let you know. I do want to touch upon one more design and then this one. Okay, is that good?
Let's do it. Yes.
So here's the leaves that I collected on the wire, and I would actually make this bigger. Okay, I would make this bigger so that you see the pine cone through, and then because now it looks all like a brown mess, right? No, like it's just sort of, but I would put a little more negative space to make it more like a wreath. But I just want to show you the elements of how to do it with wire, okay? And by utilizing dry leaves like that. And then I sort of like to off-center the pine cones so that maybe the bow would be more here in the middle. Okay, so just so that you, and again, you could even make a square shape. You can make, depending on how you want to string, manipulate the wire. It's very pliable. So this is all ugly, right? You don't want to see that, but eventually you're going to put more leaves up to here and here, and it's going to be completely round. And then you could use nice ribbon to make a bow, and then to have that hang on the on your door. Okay, is that good, Kristen?
Yeah.
Okay. So to get to another form that I made, so basically the wire frame. So in floral designing, we use chicken wire a lot. So you could get the chicken wire, instead of using that in a jar to hold your flowers, which is what people usually do, is to make a frame. I made this into a log. It looks like a log. And there I also put in little mini pine cones, and you can have acorns if you find your acorns, and just put that in this log frame. You can make this is your own vessel. And I have here little glass tubes where I put it to the frame. And again, you're gonna put some water in there. Oh, I'm gonna put water in the tubes. And again, it's just having fun with what you're finding. And you could put some leaves. I like finding branches too that have, like, don't just pick up leaves, pick up these, because these are so fun. I mean, just to see the coloration changing on this stem. So sometimes you might want to have something quite modern and maybe just stick it here at an angle. Okay. And having maybe a few blooms in your vases. I'm just showing you the concept of what you could make. Okay, and just very sort of simplify it, not overpower it with too many flowers. Again, it's because you've collected and you don't, I'm not hiding my mechanics. Most floral designers, as you know, we're all concerned about hiding oasis, hiding what you're using to stabilize your flowers. In this case, it's not at all the case. I'm showing my tubes, I'm showing what I've made by exposing it. Okay, so again, you're gonna have this, you might have a few. When I look for little gourds and pumpkins, I try to find ones with stems. I love the texture, I love seeing, you know, the growth that, I mean, it was hanging some at one point, but just having, of course you can't find them all too long, you know, you have your cute little pumpkins here. But basically I want to show you that you could just decorate on the table, utilizing these gourds, and then having this structure where people would say, oh, that's creative, how did you do that? So basically using chicken wire and stuffing it, you can make a different shape. I made it a log shape, and then adding some leaves into your design. Can you guys see that? Great.
It looks like really cool. This one is very creative.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thinking out of the box, like what can you use besides having, so besides the recycled elements, we've created actually our own vase. Great. So I'm going to show you. So this is a long and low, this is like a centerpiece design, and actually not long and low, this is just a circular vase. It's very low. Because usually when you're designing, you don't want to talk through flowers when you're at a dinner table. So you just want to make sure using your elbow on the table, that would be the height, the highest height for that piece. Because if it goes higher, you can't, you know, how high, you know, you can't see the person across from you. But now with social distancing, I mean, I think actually it would be fine if it's higher because you're 6 feet away. But in the past, that would be the rule. Here's some branches that I did not find, but maybe if you have a garden, you could find these branches that it's a grapevine. I purchased it, you could buy it in Michael's. And
This time of year, I'll add in, a lot of people are like cleaning up all of the dead growth from their gardens, like old squash plants and things like that. And so those types of vines would probably work really well here too, and the old growth.
Exactly, exactly. I was at a garden club presentation, and people have their gardens. You're basically, your whole yard is full of items that you could start collecting. For me, I bought this because I don't have a garden, but I do want to show you what you could do with that by utilizing this low vase. And what we're going to do is just have that grapevine inserted here and outside of the vase. So sort of hiding it. I'm going to add some water into there, and basically it's a very natural, organic looking design, and this could be a spring design as well, and usually in spring I use tulips, but for this design I won't be having that because I want to keep it with the fall theme. So we're going to have, you know, the sunflowers in here. And you could put it in between the grapevine to hold your flowers. And if you want, you could stabilize it. Now this is the time when I will be looking for things. You could stabilize it by putting wire in here, which I will eventually find, maybe. Okay, there's some wire that you could use as a frog, and you put it in here to stabilize your flowers, but they're not going to be so tall, so you're going to have a low arrangement, so you don't need too much stability per se. It's not going to be moving around too much. Again, cutting at an angle. I'm putting these sunflowers in here. You might see that. And it's being supported by the vines. Okay. Usually you want to use flowers in threes. So the odd number rule of adding flowers because 2 might look a little strange, but I'm not gonna put it 3 in a row or anything. I'm just gonna put one maybe across the way, like that. Okay, I know this is sort of, it might be a little hard to see, but I just want to give you the idea of utilizing something natural, putting in the flowers, utilizing the grapevine as your stability for the arrangement. Adding, okay, this is when these come in handy, when it has like a little stem, just adding them. You could even put it upside down like that. Or if you want, I could wire them and tape them so that they're hanging, see, like this. It's hanging there, I like that, just sort of keep it fun. And then I'm not gonna fill this vase completely with flowers, but just to show you that I just use 4 flowers and then this grapevine, and I think it's just, I know maybe from the top, I would probably have to show you at an angle. If I'm like gonna lift it like that. Oops, there goes the flower. But anyway, you get the idea.
I can kind of see that. Yeah, that's good.
And then here's another thing I want to show you. I've tied. You can make a garland. So here's a garland I pre-made. So I put branches. I found these cute little birch flowers. Sticks, I got 3 together and I tied them on that. I found these felt leaves, maybe at the Christmas store, no. And then more leaves. So basically, I'm just gonna utilize that. You could put this at home, make a whole string of them on your window, and then have like this curtain of tied, like a garland like that. But I'm gonna put it on this, onto my arrangement like that. So it adds a little, like it softens the design a little rather than just having that birch. I've added some felt, I added these flowers, and you could also buy birch in squares at the flower market. And you could like break that apart. You could cut them into shapes, but you could break them, you could add that into your design to make it a little more organic looking if you just tear it instead of cutting into shapes. So there's a lot you could do in terms of finding things at Michael's, maybe at the flower market, but also in your gardens and having fun, repurposing things. And that's the whole idea of trying not to be wasteful. And yeah, I think I've got to this last piece. So if we have questions, sorry if I was going too fast.
That's okay. We're going to post this video and people can rewatch it if they need to, you know, see it one more time. We have a question about, is there a way to treat the leaves to slow down the drying process so that it's not super crumbly?
Yeah. One thing that I try to do is take away the moisture by ironing the leaves. So I didn't even use the wax system. So I got a paper towel, and then I wanted to, so that they don't crumble, but have some, I want it to be, I want it to dry, not like crumbly like this, you know, but more like a straight, like flatter. So I try to dry it by ironing it. But that doesn't, you're thinking that doesn't make sense because I'm taking away the moisture, but it actually helps keep the shape of the leaf, because if it starts drying, you're going to get more of the wrinkled, you know, look. So that sort of helped my designing. I think the wax thing that I talked about, of putting getting a wax paper, putting leaves on it, putting it up, another wax sheet on top, and ironing it lightly, and those will help preserve your leaves. And you could even have sheets of it, and then later on pull it out later, and then use those leaves, and that's sort of protected. And again, utilizing an iron that you don't use for clothing, and then putting maybe a sheet of paper on top of the wax so that you're not completely ruining that iron, but it's meant for ironing leaves. Otherwise, I'm sure there's probably other ways of preserving. If you look online, waxing tends to be one. And then I don't like the chemical glycerin, which sometimes helps preserve flowers and roses and leaves as well.
There was another follow-up question about, she said she's aware that there's some kind of a spray to preserve leaves and flowers, like in a wreath, but any other suggestions or opinions on preserving wreaths or the flowers in wreaths?
I think it depends on what flower you're trying to preserve. Sometimes, like I think for me, I've dried hydrangeas, and then usually when you want to dry your flowers, you want to dry it in a dark room so it preserves its color. But I've used it's like a gel, it's a silicone powder in which I've actually got a tin can, poured that in, and I put some of these flowers that I really love, put that in. It's some sort of, it takes away the moisture right away from the flower. And then when you take it out after a week, you have the flowers preserved, really nicely preserved with the color. So that's something you could look up, but I haven't done that lately. I know some people want to take apart, maybe if they have their bridal bouquet and they want to take apart their flowers and do that and then reassemble it and put it in like a glass jar. So there's like those ways of preserving the flowers so that you could have the color, especially, needs to still be there, because roses tend to dry and then it loses its color.
Awesome. And I think that was it for questions. Or one more?
I want to say for one more quick question, they asked if BloomAgainBklyn is in other cities or maybe even other boroughs. Caroline, would you want to jump in and say a little piece about that?
Yes, no. Yes and no. We are based in Brooklyn because we really just don't have the bandwidth to go to other cities. We have had plans and have talked to the Garden Club in Philadelphia. So Bloom Again Philadelphia, we do distribute to homebound seniors, and our recipients are in other boroughs, but we don't yet have any spaces in other places. We do have the URL for, we have the patent for certain cities. Bloom Again Houston, Bloom Again Philadelphia, Bloom Again Boston, but Lisa, but no, the answer is, the short answer is no, we haven't done it yet because we don't have the bandwidth. And so we want all our resources. We're in a big city already, just Brooklyn, and branching out to the boroughs, but many volunteers from many other boroughs come to Brooklyn. So it's as Lisa is. So our volunteer base, which is awesome, which is how we can operate. I mean, we have an amazing volunteer team. Only a few of them do you see here. But Lisa is an amazing example of somebody who is super talented and gives her time, and other people give their time in other ways. So they come from everywhere. Lisa lives in Manhattan. Elaine Diaz is another floral designer. She was in Queens. I'm not a designer at all, and I live in Brooklyn. But so the answer is that everybody comes from everywhere, but we do not have other. We're the only nonprofit in the greater New York area, in the tri-state area, that does this at the moment.
Great. And we'll be sending everyone a follow-up email with a lot of information. So it'll have the recording of today's workshop. It'll have a link to BloomAgainBklyn's website, so you can check them out and support them there. And thank you so much to Lisa and everyone, and Caroline, Rick, AJ, everyone, for helping us out with this workshop today. We hope you all enjoyed it.
Great, thank you.
We want to thank you guys too. Thank you, Lisa, so much.
It was fun. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
She's
thank you so much, Lisa. Lisa, you have so much love in the chat. There's so many people are saying they're so excited to do this, and they can't wait to try things out at home. They're already doing lots of planning for it. So you've inspired a lot of people today. Thank you.
Oh, I'm happy. I know it's sort of a dreary day, so hopefully the next few days will be nicer, and there's still plenty of leaves to collect.
That is true.
All right.
All right.
Well,
thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Lisa.
GrowNYC, an awesome,
course.
awesome organization.
Thank you. very much.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lisa.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.